Okay then, that's right, I just walked in front of the screen. So good afternoon, good morning, good night, whatever time you're watching this video. If you're watching this video, it's because you just finished our class on managing work. Now in that class, we spoke a lot about what you need to do in order to maintain being employed. I probably said in class that it's easy to get employed, it's just hard to stay employed. And we went over a lot of different scenarios that happen during the course of working in an environment and what it is you need to do in order to try to avoid the difficulties that happen from day-to-day work. And that'll help you keep your job. For this video, we're going to talk about the things that you can do to try to get employed. And by terms get employed, I actually mean get a job that offers some level of benefits, not just your wages, not just your check, but some paid time off, maybe some vacation days, better health insurance, 401ks, pensions. How do you get one of those jobs? Specifically, if you don't have any experience, working at that level previously. So one of the first things that a lot of people think about when they talk about getting a job is the resume. What I'll tell you about the resume is to think about the resume in terms of presenting your financial history. Your financial history is your credit report. So think about the resume as just your work history. This is what tells me what you've done. So one of the first things that's on there is the objective. I hate objectives. As a manager who looks to hire people, I already know that your goal is to be employed or to be employed gainfully or the job that challenges you or whatever else it is that you put inside the objectives. I'm more likely to appreciate a profile. So a profile is just a few sentences that tell me about who you are. Financial services professional, hands-on manager, 10 years management experience, able to teach financial literacy. Social services or nonprofit professional, well-versed at teaching financial literacy and such sanctuary model. That kind of gives me some insight into who you are as opposed to telling me that you want a job, which I already know. The next thing is cover letters. People get really twisted on cover letters. If you have a template for a cover letter, throw it out immediately. That's one of the worst things that you can have happen when I read your cover letter to see something that I know is a template. It's going to make me not think that you took the time and effort it takes to put together a letter for me. Now, where people get twisted up with cover letters is they think they have to sound professional. You do not. You just need to tell me things that that I can't see on the resume. So let's say you were a customer service rep and you got promoted to weekend supervisor. And on the resume, I can see customer service rep and then I can see weekend supervisor. Great, I know you got promoted. On the cover letter, it should say something like, I'm somebody who emphasizes accountability outside of work and in work. I'm a very responsible person, which is why I sought the position of weekend supervisor, because I wanted to influence accountability within the office, not just be someone that's held to a standard, but help set the standard for others. Perfect. That tells me why you got promoted. And that's all a cover letter is. It's telling me the details that I don't get to see on the resume side of things. The next thing that's really important, this is really, really important, is the follow-up email. So the follow-up email just needs to say, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about the position. I'm really excited, blah, blah, blah. The reason that it's important isn't what it is that you say in it, is that it'll separate candidates at the end of the day. When I've interviewed 10 people that day and I only got 8 follow-up emails, the 2 that didn't send me emails stand out. Whether or not that was intentful or not, it's the reality of what happens. So essentially send it because you don't want to be the person that doesn't. What it is you say in it is just a thank you. You don't have to have 5 paragraphs for a follow-up email, nor do you need them for a cover letter. Now, the next one is online presence, and this one's a little tricky, and people can take this a multitude of different ways, so I'm just going to speak about it. First things first, we live in 2016, so you need an online resume. An online resume can go in a bunch of different forms, but the easiest way to do an online resume is through LinkedIn. That's LinkedIn, LinkedIn. And that's like Facebook for professionals. And it allows you to put together an online resume. It's just your resume and your credentials listed online. What LinkedIn allows you to do is have people who work with you also comment and emphasize your credentials. Or I should say legitimize your credentials. I've had employees that I've had in the past talk about the type of manager I am. I've had managers that I've had in the past talk about the type of employee I am. And they can do that and give you recommendations on LinkedIn. And as a manager, having the ability to check your profile on LinkedIn makes it a little easier to buy into what it is that you're telling me on paper. Because there are also people that can verify what it is that you say. The next thing is YouTube. So here's where YouTube comes into play. As a manager, I don't know you. All I know is your resume. And resumes, after a while, start to look alike. Even the ones that look really, really good, they start to look alike. YouTube isn't for resumes that look great. They're for the ones that don't look so great. When you don't have experience in this field, but you're applying for this job. When you've been, like me, in banking your whole life, and then you apply for a nonprofit job in social services. What? That's essentially what it looks like when you see that resume. So where YouTube comes into play is it gives you the ability to go in front of a camera, very much like I am now, and speak and talk about why you think this works. If you couldn't get that all in a cover letter, or you couldn't get it all in a resume, the YouTube allows you to speak. And that's essentially for anybody who feels like they're more impressive in person than they are on paper. I've talked to people and they all say, if I could just get an interview, I know I could get the job. All right, cool. So you can't get the interview because the resume doesn't look that great, or the cover letter and resume aren't that great. Put a YouTube clip up of you speaking, no more than a few minutes. And that is kind of like a pre-interview interview where you say who you are, why you want the job, and why you feel like you're a great candidate. You don't have to do this for every job. You can kind of make a generic one, but it does give you the ability to speak in front of the camera and let someone know who you are. They also get a visual of you and watching you talk and how your mannerisms are. And that can be helpful. Now, here's the one that's a little controversial: social media. Businesses and jobs will tell you that they do not check your social media. They definitely check your social media. As a manager, I've worked for companies where they said, we don't look online, that's supposed to be private. You check their social media. You absolutely do. If I'm going to make a decision to bring someone into my place of business, and I'm going to pay them X amount of dollars, I want to know everything I can. Now, social media is supposed to be private, but if you put it online, it's public. And it's public because you made it public. You put it online. So be conscious of the things that you put on social media. I do not mean delete pictures of you partying or drinking. It's okay that you party and drink. It is not okay that you get drunk and then don't know where you live, or you're out somewhere and you're mooning people in the middle of the street. It's not okay to have pictures of you misbehaving or twisting up an L or doing things that you know you shouldn't necessarily do if you were looking for a job, but because you weren't when you took that picture or that Snapchat, you didn't really care. It will come back to bite you later. Be conscious of what it is you put out on social media, because everyone looks. Any job that says that they don't probably aren't being straight with you. Now, I just said a whole bunch of things about what it takes to get employed or to try to get employed. One of the things that I don't talk about a lot is that personality matters. A lot of times people think it's all about credentials. Like if you've done the job, if you've been good at the job, it should be easy. Hillary Clinton can show you that if you've done the job and you're good at the job, it doesn't necessarily mean it's easy, because personality does matter. Personality isn't whether or not you're fun or engaging, but more or less whether or not I, as a manager, want to work with you as an employee. That's one of the dynamics that a lot of folk don't think about when they start thinking about being hired. I'm bringing you into my office, around my team and around me. I'm going to have to see you every day. So I'm going to want to hire someone that's good at the job, but also has a personality that I can get along with. I've known some very, very talented people with very abrasive personalities. And me and them weren't good fits. So if it was just based off credentials, they would have gotten a job. But it was based off of everything: the personality, the person, and the credentials, which is why I moved to a different candidate. Now, I say that to say, when you look at your social media, don't erase things that show your personality. When you write your cover letters, show personality. What you want to avoid are things that show the negative side of your personality. If you've ever walked off a job before, you don't need to be on social media bragging about that. Even if that manager was absolutely horrible as a manager, I don't want to know, as the person that's hiring you, that you walked off the job because he didn't want to be flexible with your schedule, or because you had an emergency at your child's school and he didn't want to give you time to go do it. Those are great reasons to move on from a job, but they're more or less great reasons to put your 2 weeks notice in, not to just walk off a job and not come back. There's nothing in that lets me know that I won't be the next victim of that as a manager, and I have a business to run. So when you set up your social media, make sure you're not bragging about things that you've done in the past that are wrong, but at the same time, it's okay to let your personality show. You can show them that you're a human being and that you're a great person to work with. Now, some of these tips will work for you, some of these will not, but take the ones that make sense to you, and hopefully you'll use them to get employed. Thanks.